Good evening, everybody. It is Friday, December 13th. What could go wrong? There's so much going wrong. From Boston to Montana to New Jersey to the White House. Wowza. I'd like to start my show, though, by giving a happy anniversary wish to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu. Tonight, we are 1 year, it's the 1 year anniversary of her No White People Christmas party that she held in Boston. Do you remember this from last year? She sent an email inviting the whole city council to a Christmas party. And then the next day, she sent an email to the white people, and they were like, she was like, no, I'm sorry. This is only for people of color. You're not invited. So, and she's Asian, which is almost white, but she wanted to make sure to give them a proper uninvitation. And the internet went crazy. I mean, you must remember this, right? But there's so much more to the story than we've ever discussed before. So let me share with you this beautiful picture from that fateful night, December 13th, 2023. This was the No White People Christmas party. Lovely. It's held at the Francis Parkman House in Boston on Beacon Hill. Now, if I can direct your attention up to the left side of the photo above the mantle, there's a portrait. That portrait is of Francis Parkman. He's looking down on this dinner, and the house is named after him. He was a historian in the 19th century. I love this so much. And the thing about Francis Parkman is he wrote a paper in 1879 called The Woman Question. And as we know, Michelle Wu is terrible at governing, shall I say. She's the mayor. We also have a terrible, in Massachusetts, horrible governor, Maura Healey, both of which who are committed to sanctuary status in the city and the state, even though many children, we're up to 39 people, including children now, who have been sexually assaulted by illegal aliens. There's rampant open air drug use and homelessness, more than there ever has been in Boston and throughout the state. What else? We've got bike lanes being built. The city budget is completely busted. She's about to raise residential property taxes by almost 11% all at once, because instead of lowering expenses, she just keeps on spending. Everything is about race, as evidenced by the No White People Christmas party. But Francis Parkman, it's like he had a crystal ball. He saw this coming from a mile away, way back in 1879. And he wrote an entire paper, this paper I mentioned called The Woman Question, in which he said women basically made a case for why women shouldn't get into politics, including voting. I'm going to read you a little excerpt from this, honestly. It's just too good. And I don't care how you feel, and you could be a raging feminist, and this could just totally get your panties in a bunch. I don't care. He makes a really good case, and he's right. And we see it happening with many of these governors, and also especially with liberal women who vote completely with their emotions. Here we go. Mr. Parkman says, if the better class of women flatter themselves that they can control the others, they are doomed to disappointment. The female vote would enormously increase the evil, for it is often more numerous, always more impulsive, and less subject to reason. And through causes which we gave above, almost devoid of the sense of responsibility. Here, the bad politician would find his richest resources. Okay, absolutely no accountability and responsibility from any of these politicians. Like look at Michelle Wu now. They're building this stadium, the White Stadium, and it's going to be a professional women's soccer stadium. Like, who cares, first of all? And originally the budget was something like $50 million of tax dollars were going to be contributed. Now it's up to 90 million. And she just made a statement recently that was like, I don't care what it costs, I'm doing it. Like, what? Well, how could you just keep throwing good money after bad on something that is probably not even going to get used that much? Then his last sentence here, when we talk here, the bad politician would find his richest resources. Look at what we've seen politicians do over the last, let's just say roughly 10, 15 years, 10 years mostly, where how they have leaned in on the emotional pull, the emotions of race baiting, the emotion of the Me Too movement, the emotion of the, oh, we have to take in all the illegals, no human is illegal. It's all emotion based, right? The politicians who are trying to gain power, they lean in on that. And it is right. It is this emotional voter is the richest resource that a bad politician can have. It is freaking amazing to me. And the irony is so thick that these people had their emotional race baiting, no white people Christmas party with him looking down on them, probably rolling in his grave that this is going on in his house. So then he turns around later in the essay and he talks about the Civil War and women's role in the South in the Civil War. And he really hammers it home here. Finally, the women of the South were more ardent for secession and slavery than the men. And when the men knew that the cause was lost, their weaker partners refused to yield. Fighting was useless, but fair lips still cried, "Fight on." It was the action of those two very different qualities, a woman's will and a man's resolution. The one can be argued with, and the other cannot. The one is subject to reason. Pretty sure he's talking about the man's resolution there. The other sees nothing but the object on which its heart is set and strains after it in the teeth of ruin. Whoa. Could that not be any more true? I'm sorry. Now, oh, come at me. Oh, no, men do that too. Sure, there are weak men who do that. And there are strong women who don't. But overall, when we're looking at politicians, proportionally speaking, more of the women exemplify exactly what he's talking about here. When I'm talking to women voters, more of them exemplify what he's talking about here. And you could, oh, now I'm going to be called a misogynist. Now I'm going to be told I hate women because I'm being realistic about our natures and our different natures, the nature between men and women. Don't forget it was Eve who took the apple. All right. But to prove my point about this is everybody's favorite here, Kamala Harris. You guys, she's on, she's still out there talking about her campaign and how her feelings. Here we go. Listen to this.
Folks crying. And I was like, we are not having a pity party.
Yeah. I don't know if it's hard for you to hear, so I'll just repeat here. She says, we're not having a pity party. And then she's going to go on to talk about feelings.
That's not what we do. That's right. That's not what we do. We know the stakes. We are clear-eyed. We feel because having feelings is a source and an indication of one's strength in humanity.
We have feelings because feelings are our strength in our humanity. So they're laying into exactly what he said, playing into everything that is true and wrong about politics. And women have brought it in. So Michelle Wu, congratulations on proving his point. It would have been way better if you had turned around and done something wonderful and proved Francis Parkman wrong and then sat in his house. But you didn't. You had your no white people Christmas party. And to be honest, I'm not sure if that's happening again this year. Last year, they said it was an ongoing tradition. So I'm assuming that it is happening and there is just no scandal about it. And I will find out and let you know. And maybe it is happening at the Parkman house again. And we could get another photo of them foolishly sitting underneath his portrait because they're too self-absorbed to even consider where they're sitting. They're just so in love with themselves. What's up, Truthful Troll? Welcome back. All right, next. We've got another real problem here. The multi-front war on children, the dark side has had some victories this past week. For starters, in Montana, the Supreme Court overturned a ban on gender affirming care in the state. So now it is legal in Montana for parents to give their children puberty blockers, hormones, and surgical procedures to change their gender, which is completely impossible and totally freaking insane. But that's what's going on. So the reason that they gave the Montana Supreme Court is they said that there's, the Montana Constitution has a clause in it that people are entitled to privacy in their medical decisions without interference from the government. Isn't that clever? So now what else? So now parents can do whatever they want to their children in the name of privacy. Because I believe that telling a child that they're in the wrong body and giving them all these irreversible physical, mental procedures is child abuse. So we're just going to allow whatever. What's next in Montana? So we've got up in Canada. This is news. I found out today, I was reading the New York Sun. New data is in. You know how Canada has assisted suicide and it's become all the rage up there? 1 in 20 deaths are achieved via assisted suicide. That's 5% of people who die. So that means everybody in Canada, I got to start making some phone calls. Everybody up there must know somebody that has killed themselves, with some help. It's also called euthanasia, or maybe murder, if you really want to be honest about it. So what's going to happen now? Because we have all these lefty liberals who are in love with death. They love killing babies right up to the point of birth. They don't mind that American women and children are being raped and murdered by illegal aliens. No problem at all for them. They didn't mind, when the Afghanistan withdrawal, that sloppy mess killed 13 service members. They just love death. They love to destroy the family. They love to make sure that these trans children, as they say, are being sterilized so that they'll never grow up and have families. The next thing they're going to be talking about, if they're not already, is assisted suicide here in the United States. So once we have that here, are parents going to be able to do that in Montana without any intervention from the state? Are they just going to be able to kill their children because the kid's depressed or had a bad day or failed a test and just can't go on? I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but did you ever think we'd be talking about cutting off little boys' pichadoules, cutting off little young teen girls' boobs? You ever think we were going to be doing this? Yeah, all right. Everybody wants to talk about drones. We're going to get there. Calm down, everybody. Jeez. I know, drones. It's like, what would it be if I didn't talk about drones tonight? I mean, I was walking, I'm going to get to the drones in a minute, but I was walking the dog yesterday, or the day, I think it was yesterday, and I'm in Florida and I'm looking at the sky and I'm like, they're going to be here soon. There's no way this is just going to stay in New Jersey. And then I walk in the house and a few minutes later, they're like, drones are in at LaGuardia Airport in New York. And then today it's like drones are in Connecticut. And I was like, all right, yeah, I was right here. This is not going to stay a New Jersey problem for long. And I'm sure we all have the same thoughts. Anyway, back to New Jersey. Before we get to the drones, I want to talk about your psychotic governor, Phil Murphy. So he recently signed into law a ban on book bans so that he could make sure that no pornographic books can be taken out of schools at all. No parents can have any rights to remove these books. But I don't think that's going to stand up. I think these parents are going to have a legal case against him. Back in the 80s, the Island Trees School District versus Pico case that rose up to the Supreme Court was about school boards removing books from schools. And the Supreme Court said they're not allowed to. School boards are not allowed to remove books from schools if it's about politics they don't agree with or religious things they don't agree with. But they are allowed to remove books from schools if they're obscene. And that's coming down from the Supreme Court. I'm interested to see how that weaves its way into this particular law. This might just be, a stopgap in the meantime so that they can, admire everyone in red tape. But I think we're going to see these things coming back up to the Supreme Court. Illinois, California, Minnesota, and Maryland have also enacted such bans on book bans, and they call them something nice like freedom to read, like because psychos, right-wing psychos are trying to ban books. No, I just don't think that kids need to be talking about orgies and S&M and anal masturbation because, crazy me. It's hot in here tonight. Oh, I got a new book I was going to show you and I forgot to bring it over here. You're going to have to wait till next week. Speaking of all the crazy kids. All right, I want to talk about something a little horrible. And it's making me sick to my stomach that this news story that I'm going to talk about right now got a moment, just nothing but a moment of attention. Let me introduce you to Ivory Smith. This is a second grader from Houston, Texas. And on December 1st, Ivory was killed by a drunk driver. And to no one's surprise, that drunk driver was an illegal alien from Venezuela, 41 years old. His name was, what is his name? Joel Gonzalez Chasen. And, you know, he's in jail now. Now he's in custody. But the crazy thing, you know, this little girl now, her family, I can't even imagine facing Christmas with your little girl dead. And she was her mother's only child, which is just unthinkable. Unthinkable. So this creep who killed her, he was in custody back in June for assaulting a family member. But this creep, Ed Gonzalez, the sheriff in Harris County in Texas, he has been very clear that he will not cooperate with ICE. So the first time back in June when Gonzalez Chasen was in his custody, ICE put a detainer on him. And before 48 hours of being released, the sheriff's office should have notified ICE so they could come and sweep him up and throw him back over the wall or do whatever they need to do. Instead, this guy is on Team Biden down in Texas, and he released him without notifying ICE. And just a few months later, he drove drunk, smashed into Ivory Smith's mother's car. The mother's still in the hospital. She's in bad shape, and killed this little girl. So this sheriff has blood on his hands. Now, earlier in the Biden administration, he had nominated this guy or told him he was going to become the director of ICE. For whatever reason, that didn't work out. But I think he was hoping that Harris was going to win because, you know, then maybe he would have another chance at getting up to the national level. But in the meantime, he just has his revolving door and refuses and is very public about being a sanctuary county, that he's not going to put anybody away or turn anybody into ICE. So this guy killed a little girl, in addition to all the other crimes that he's dealing with. So about 10% of the criminals in his county have ICE detainers that he is not honoring. How is this even possible? How is it? I hope that Tom Homan grabs this guy by the neck and tosses him into the deepest, darkest cell that he can find and keeps him there and charges him with every crime we can possibly think of, because he is committing crime by harboring illegal aliens. And again, as we talked about another time, when in the illegal alien laws, not only if you harbor them, transport them, induce them, are you responsible for those crimes, you also can be charged when those people commit crimes on an American citizen. So I hope that he gets charged with this intoxicated manslaughter charge also, because it's his fault. I'm so over it. I'm so over it. Oh, anyway, we have to remember, because what's going to happen when Trump gets in office, all the libs, and he starts rounding them all up, all the libs are going to go nuts and talk about family separation and tell us that we're cruel and tell us that this can't be happening. And I want all these names on the tips of your tongues. I want everybody to be able to look every lib and say, no, they got to go because of Ivory Smith, because of Jocelyn Nungray, because of Rachel Morin, because of Travis Wolf, because of Scott Miller, because of Laken Riley. That's what we need to tell them, and let them explain how that's okay. What are those people? Just more collateral damage so that we can take on the whole world in this illegal invasion? It's just this precious little girl. It's going to be buried for no good reason. All right, guys. I know all you really care about are the drones. So we're going to talk about the drones. So the White House, John Kirby, today was there giving a statement, and let's hear what he had to say.
A few comments on the reports of drone activity here on the East Coast, particularly in and around New Jersey. We have no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or a public safety threat, or have a foreign nexus. The Department of Homeland Security and the FBI are investigating these sightings, and they're working closely with state and local law enforcement to provide resources using numerous detection methods to better understand their origin. Using very sophisticated electronic detection technologies provided by federal authorities, we have not been able to, and neither have state or local law enforcement authorities, corroborate any of the reported visual sightings.
He's so full of it. Oh my God. Oh, so first of all, nothing to see here. You're fine. Do not give it a second thought. There's no reason to think that there's any danger. Well, if you don't know what it is, how do you know it's not dangerous? First of all, then he says, oh, we haven't been able to corroborate any of these sightings. Nope. Don't believe your own eyes, New Jersey. It's not happening. What? How did they even come up with this? Like, oh God, no wonder these people got voted out. Just one of a million things. Oh, just lies, 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 constant. But there's one guy, Van Drew. Why am I forgetting this guy's name all of a sudden? Whew. Congressman Jeff Van Drew from Jersey. He was on Harris Faulkner, and he seems to have an answer on what's actually going on and a solution. Check this out. This actually makes sense. And I got a call from Damon Galdo, who's on the Jersey Shore podcast here on the Patriots Prayer Network, and he knows Van Drew personally, and he's like, this guy wouldn't lie, and he wouldn't say this, and he wouldn't stick his neck out like this if he didn't have a good source. Check it out.
Focus now. Republican Congressman Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey, member of the House Judiciary Committee on the Hill right now. How do you address this at this point?
Well, here's the real deal, Harris. You know, I'm also on the Transportation Committee, on the Aviation Subcommittee, and I've gotten to know people. And from very high sources, very qualified sources, very responsible sources, I'm going to tell you the real deal. Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones. That mothership is off, I'm going to tell you the deal. It's off the east coast of the United States of America. They've launched drones, is everything that we can see or hear. And again, these are from high sources. I don't say this lightly.
All right, I'm sorry I'm laughing. But like, oh, an Iranian mothership with mini spaceships just hanging out off the coast of the U.S. These things are like 6-7 feet. They're saying they're small flying cars, the sizes of cars. They can fly to 6 to 7 hours at a time over a span of like 15 miles. And I just can't stop laughing. We knew that from Election day until January 20th was going to be interesting. And it's only December 13th. We still have 5 weeks to go. And we're dealing with Iranians flying overhead and the White House saying, no, it's fine. There's nothing to worry about. We're not even scared at all. This rings a bell to the Chinese spy balloon that was flying over. And remember in the beginning, they were like, oh, we don't know what it is, but we're not worried. It's okay. Don't worry. Like, who's not worried? Not that I'm worried. I'm not losing sleep over the drones. Like, if they come and they just start, blowing up houses around me, like, what am I going to do? Like, I just do my best to hide and hopefully survive. But if not, boom, it's over. I'm not going to lose sleep over this. I don't know. I hope you guys feel the same way. I guess I'm not in New Jersey. I have gotten calls from cousins and my sister and people there who, friends like Damon who were there and saying that this is nuts and everybody's seeing them. So for the White House to say that they can't corroborate these sightings is hilarious. But yeah, Iranian mothership, that is actually more believable than anything that's coming out of the White House. Nothing coming out of the White House is ever believable. All right, that's all I've got on the drones. I mean, if you guys have anything you want to say, drop it in the comments and, let's go. You guys can fight it out amongst yourselves about the drones. Last thing I want to talk about tonight, guys, is The View. I know. The View is a bunch of, lunatics, a bunch of liberal lunatic ladies who kind of come full circle right to the beginning to Frances Parkman talking about how women are, can be irrational, illogical, and not have to have any sort of accountability for what they say or do. Lorraine is saying they're flying over every night. I might have to fly up and see this. I don't know. I might have to just pop up, come stay. I might have to come stay, Lorraine, for a few days and just sit out there, in the yard with you and check this out. I want to see this with my own eyes. What the White House is saying isn't happening. So the crazy view. Let me just show you the clip. Hear what they said. They were talking about Trump's promise to save all the Israeli hostages. Here we go.
I say, I'm not going to be apocalyptic. It's not changing a tune. It's not making every single thing a 5-alarm fire. Yeah. If he does good, if he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say, thank you for doing it. Yeah. She'll knock it right off my head. But you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen and then call out relentlessly the wrongdoing.
Well, okay. So she's going to put a MAGA hat on if he does it. Ha, ha, ha. That's just a stunt. I don't really care about that. But the fact that she said that they should be fair. The fact that she said when he has a win, celebrate the win and, call out the other stuff, call out the heinous things that he does and be fair is a departure from everything we usually see on that show. And you could see the other hosts were like, ugh, like they could never give somebody any credit. It doesn't go against what, goes completely against the grain of who they are. And I just can't help if this one, I can't remember her name, Alyssa something or other, the one host is just trying to set herself apart. Maybe somebody with a brain took her aside, a friend, and said to her, listen, the mainstream media is in meltdown. The American people trust you less and less and less. And so the only way some of you are going to survive is if you start being moderate and telling the actual truth and giving credit where it's due and only screaming and crying when things are going wrong. I mean, maybe just try that and see what happens. So I don't really trust her. It doesn't mean I trust her, but at least I saw a glimmer of intelligence in what she said. And I wonder if the mainstream media is going to try now to regain the trust of the American people. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch how they act, because some of them are going to try to save themselves. I do think for most of them, it's too late. I think that independent podcasters, like people here on the network and all over the internet, and independent journalists have taken over and have really taken a hold and will fully take over the spreading of information pretty soon. I just hope that, what has to happen within that group is that people don't get full of themselves and get big heads and then become polluted, just like the mainstream media did when they get a whiff of money. So let's hope the best for all of us out here, that we can overtake the mainstream media and keep the trust of the people by telling the truth. So that's it for me tonight, guys. I'd love if you follow the Patriots Prayer Network. If you're on Rumble, like this video, share it if you had a good time tonight. Oh, I want to make a quick announcement. Damon on the Jersey Shore podcast, Sunday, the 22nd at 9 p.m. He's going to have former state senator Ed Durr on his show. Ed Durr is one of 8 or 9 people running for governor in New Jersey. So it should be an interesting conversation, because there's so much craziness going on in New Jersey that if somebody doesn't unseat Phil Murphy, the state is just going to go to complete hell in a handbasket between the high taxes, the pornography in the schools. Their, parental rights are down the drain, drones flying overhead, and nobody has any cojones, and nobody has any ability to do anything because the feds have them hogtied. Let's see if we can get a new governor in there and maybe turn that state normal again. there's a couple of other guys that he's going to have on in later episodes. Jack Chittarelli and I can't even read my own, Bill Spadea. And that's 3 of the 8 or 9 candidates. And I think he's going to eventually get all of them on. I think that's going to be interesting to see, who holds up in the New Jersey governor's race. All right, guys, I'm out for tonight. Thank you so much for coming. I always love being here with you on a Friday night. And any good, great, you know what? I didn't even look at the comments before I say goodnight. I want to spend a minute with you. Mike, you gonna have nightmares? I don't know about what. Illegal aliens, drones, Kamala Harris. So many things to have nightmares about that I talked about tonight. And you trust street food. Seth trusts street food and a giant glass of water at the street in Tijuana more than them. Again, who's them? Are we talking about The View, the media, the White House? We can't trust anybody anymore. It's so terrible. Mike was talking, he's going to have nightmares about The View. Oh, please. Joy Reid coming at you. Your nightmare could be like you're sleeping nice. You're going to be dreaming that you're dreaming something good. And then you roll over and Joy Reid is laying there next to you, reaching out. Sorry, Mike. I feel like that would be the worst of the worst nightmares. All right, guys. Thanks again. God bless you. God bless America. Bye-bye.